and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Jenny, when do we want to, you want to approve those things now?
No, we can do that during the council meeting. Thank you.
Okay. A, 2021 Downtown Danville Partnership Contract, the town manager. Mark, you have anything to say, please?
President, as you know, work study sessions, all we can do is have discussion. Notice you can't make a vote on anything, but we do want to have a discussion, obviously. As 2021 approaches, we have contractual agreements with organizations. One of them is with the Danville Downtown Partnership. In the previous years, we have contributed $80,000 to the partnership, which helps the organization with events like Summer Sounds and other functions that they do, along with the operation of the organization. Really, what we're looking at tonight is it the intent or interest of the council to continue with that contribution, or do you want to lessen, increase? It's up for discussion.
Okay.
I don't know if Mrs. Piercy has anything she'd like to add on the matter.
Okay. Does Greg have anything to add? Downtown Partnership, Greg?
So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm okay with the current level of funding, at least for 2021.
Do you have anything to add? David?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, we've had our discussion and we'll bring it up in the meeting.
What we'll do, just to kind of cover both of these at one time, and the actual council meeting, I'll ask for you to call for a vote for the dollar amount of funding. However, we will not sign the contracts tonight, twofold. Taft Law has contacted me. They want to do some tweaking with the contracts, add some boilerplate stuff, and then it'll give me a chance once they get it drafted, then we'll bring it to the next meeting, the December 2nd meeting.
Okay.
And because it requires council president's signature.
Well, you let me know in the council meeting when when we slot that in.
Yes, sir.
I do have one question. This is an annual contract, right?
That's
So we have to do
correct,
this every year?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Next, B, 2021 Greater Danville Chamber of Commerce contract.
As in with the previous and item A, this comes up for your review. It's an annual contract. In 2020, we contributed $45,000 to the Danville Chamber of Commerce. That does not include monies that we allocate for fireworks. And I know Kelly is here tonight. If she would like to add anything, like I said, for the last several years, we've contributed $45,000. I don't know if she's going to request additional. If you guys want to contribute less, but this is up for discussion tonight.
I know I'm very pleased with the Chamber of Commerce. I've gone to meetings with Kelly, and she's a real hard charger there trying to bring people into our town. And we talk quite often, and we couldn't have a better Chamber of Commerce president. So now don't ask me for too much money. Any other councilman want to say anything about the Chamber of Commerce?
I actually want to, I'm going to go back a little bit. I'm just curious. I know I've brought this up, and I know it's been discussed. The idea of maybe combining the efforts of both organizations. I know we've talked about that, but is it safe to assume that since we're presenting both of these for separate contracts that we've concluded that both organizations provide benefit to the town that is beneficial and not a lot of crossover and duplication of efforts?
I think, and Kelly, I'll address what I perceive, and then please feel free to jump in. I think both organizations have a separate function that is viable to the town of Danville. However, I do believe, and I think there is some effort by both organizations to meet in the middle on some issues. From what I've heard, I believe that Kelly's been assigned to the partnership board, and the partnership director is starting to work with the chamber on some other issues. So I think there is some commingling there, if you want to say.
Very good.
Because I do believe that they've both recognized that there are other avenues that together they will be better off. One would be, I think, the Main Street USA. I think you guys are looking at that. That is a program that would provide additional resources for the organizations to help our Main Street.
Okay.
Main Street USA, I think it is. But Kelly, that's,
I think that, looking at the partnership, moving to a possibly a main station will be very beneficial, just because there are so many resources that are allocated towards that. I've always said that if the partnership is successful, the chamber is successful. Chamber is successful, partnership is successful. So I think the partnership is much more of an events-driven organization at this point than the chamber. And so merging those, that would mean more events for the chamber and that kind of thing. And I don't know that we are the organization to do more events. We're looking at economic development, business development, and those kind of things. Now, we also do events, but I think it would be very interesting to see how this next year goes with this being my second a new board at the partnership and what transpires.
Does Main Street coming into the picture, does that create an opportunity for DDP to be more self-sufficient as well?
I don't know that self-sufficient would be,
Okay, more access to resources.
there is more access to resources. I still think there'll be some contribution by the town because of some of the events may not fall underneath Main Street USA's blanket. Nicest way I can put it.
Kelly, how do you feel about your funding from the town?
I appreciate it so much.
Of course, but
Could we use more, and could I do more with more? Absolutely. But the chamber isn't going to live and die on the town's funding. However, without the town's funding, there will have to be change in the chamber and what we do. I just appreciate it. I hope
Sure.
that you find the value in the funding that you guys are giving us. I feel like we're bringing a lot to the table.
I wasn't necessarily suggesting a reduction. But so one of the other things that we talked about, I don't know with who or when, but from an accountability standpoint, reporting back to the council, maybe quarterly, where either you and the executive director of DDP come in and just, or maybe Will, whoever, to tell us what you're doing, what you're planning on doing, and just kind of keep us, keep everybody accountable, I suppose.
I would welcome the opportunity.
I do try to send her monthly reports to all of you when I get them, just so that you have the finances and stuff.
Sure.
But I'm sure we could make arrangements for Kelly and Krista to come and speak to the council quarterly. I don't know if that would be a big deal.
I think also, and I'll stop after this, we've had, in spite of what this year has been, I think we've had a lot of good things happening. Some things we can see, this small, it's not small, but the sign, it's it's one thing, and the trail and some of the grand openings and things like that. So I think it's important that every organization can work together and get along and function. We're going to really need that, I think, in the coming years, because we have, I think, some substantial growth coming down the road. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Greg, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I would. Thank you. My observation after attending both, the partnership and the chamber, having interactions with Kelly, my perception, and I'll just kind of leave it at it's my perception, my opinion, is that I believe that COVID has actually had a greater impact on the Danville Chamber of Commerce as opposed to the Downtown Partnership. I know that both entities have gone through a number of challenges due to COVID. That being said, I would be in favor of raising the contribution to the Danville Chamber of Commerce by $20,000, extending I'll call it a line of credit at the tail end of the year. I'm not sure exactly how we could do something like that, but I think that like I said, I think the impact has had a greater impact on the chamber, and we are headed in some fantastic directions. And I really think that the Danville Chamber of Commerce is a great partner with the town of Danville, so I would look at increasing the funding.
The only thing I would add, and we've never put a dollar amount on this, but we do provide the chamber free lodging, free electricity, free telephone. I don't think we charge you any utilities or anything at all.
The office.
The office there. And again, I'm not trying to downplay what Mr. Van Leer is saying. I'm just saying these are things we do still need to take into account.
Yeah.
That we do provide more than just the $45,000 in funds.
And completely understand that. And I had been on the chamber board back when we were in Howard and Lawson's building across the street on the south side. I understand that that's equitable, for the chamber to be in town hall. I would see this more of a one-time, increase to be reevaluated, in 2022 or 21.
Okay, thank you.
I need to add, if we're going to do something like that, of course, the 2021 budget has been passed. So it would have to, and we fund the Chamber of Commerce through the edit, fund the economic development income tax. So if we were going to do that, it would have to come out of the host fund, the additional 20 or 25,000, whatever Greg suggested, the funding would have to come from the host fund.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay, C, road impact fee study. Will,
Going to let Will take the head on this one because.
okay, thank you very much.
He's got a lot more involved with park impacting.
This is just a journey that we've started. We've had one meeting or two meetings now. Lisa's involved, Barry's involved, Mark's involved, Jenny's been involved, and we're looking at the opportunity to increase funds for the impact on our roads. It's a similar study that the parks do, where any new home that was to come in and build a new home, you have an impact on our community, you have an impact on our roads, all down the line. And this fund can be dedicated towards some of those bigger issues that we're having. We did get an estimate on what it would possibly be, but we did a grand scheme plan on it, a larger plan. So we're going to meet with Matt from A&F and try to narrow that down a little bit. He did give us a pretty high number of $200,000-ish. It's not a quoted number, but it's a starting point. And so our goal is to work with him and try to work that number down to something a little bit more feasible. The good thing about road impact fee that's different from park impact fees is that you can actually pay for the fees in the study, which is really nice. So he was giving an estimate if the property to the west were to annex in, we would bring in somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million that we can focus on certain roads. And so it's kind of nice because it would pay for itself. So you're looking at, a surplus of $550,000 to go towards roads or more. And we do have some other subdivisions coming in too that it would affect. The timeline is, he said about a year pretty much, because you have 6 months to do the study, then you have to wait 6 months before implementation. So by the time we say yes, it's pretty much like a year out from there before you can start collecting fees. A lot of other communities are doing this. That large price tag, though, is a little bit of a scare without the annexation of the properties. So it's just something, we'll probably have some sort of recommendation after this meeting if we think, once we meet with Jenny and Matt from A&F and kind of come up with a plan of, do we think this is the right thing to do for us? And if those large neighborhoods are coming in, it probably is a good place to start, and we need to go now if we are going to do it too, because it takes so long to do the study. But I do think it's beneficial. It's just a matter of, is it right for us? And that's what we're going to kind of look at. So we just wanted to touch base on.
Okay. Thank you, Will.
Any questions on that? We know that as Danville grows, traffic's an issue. There's no question. We met with the state of Indiana over our Opticons, which is a preemptive system for the emergency vehicles. I'll address that during the council meeting at the end. We finally came to an agreement with the state on that. But we have to start looking seriously at traffic's bad now. If we don't do something soon and take a proactive approach, we could be painting ourselves into a real corner. So we talked with the state of Indiana about some options. None of this is etched in stone by any means, but we had talked about the possibility of a bypass. Nothing picked. But when we talked to the state about it, they weren't interested in helping with the project as much as they said if we can get it built and get it done, they might be interested in actually taking it over and then vacating Main Street to the town of Danville. Basically, it wouldn't be part of US 36 anymore. It'd be Main Street. It'd be ours to maintain. We're doing so much of that now, to be honest with you.
We pretty much will take care of it.
We've been plowing it. We've been doing everything else. So, but it'd be similar to I'd liken it to Avon Avenue between Plainfield and Brownsburg. With the Ronald Reagan, they've kind of vacated that to make that the community owns them now. So Avon owns their portion, and Plainfield and Brownsburg, and they get a little more say. I know meeting with town managers, they've talked about restricting trucks on 267 and making them go to Ronald Reagan and basically limiting their access to that roadway. We could do something very similar and say, that the bypass is a truck route now, whatever. But these are things that I don't know that I'm going to see in my career, but I do believe that they're things we have to start thinking about before, again, we create this bottleneck that we can never open.
Yep, it's good we go forward with this. We got to start.
I know we can't make a decision on anything, but what are you looking for from the council?
We just wanted to make you aware of this
Okay.
because it is so much money.
When do we have to make a decision on that?
Really, we're going to meet with this guy tomorrow.
Okay.
And then we'll try and figure out if we even want to move forward with this study.
Gotcha.
Jewel, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, so we just went through the road impact fee implementation for the town of Sheridan. And it is a lot of money. We actually worked with A&F. They're fantastic through the process. But it is such a stringent process with statutory guidelines on there. So what Will was saying about the 6 months for the study, then 6 months for the implementation, once you approve the study and pass the ordinance for an impact fee, it cannot take effect for 6 months. That's because the developers need to have full knowledge of it when they're making their decisions and things like that, and for challenges to come up to it. So it is an expensive undertaking. But what it does is it opens up a revenue source that the town does not have right now. And that is for people who are going to be taking advantage of your current infrastructure, which when you're talking about development is going to be heavy trucks impacting those roads, collecting a fee from them to help maintain your roads and keep your infrastructure to where it needs to be. So you don't want another situation like you had over Stratford Hills, where we were dealing with that. This creates a pool of money for that. So you will be spending a significant amount of money to get this done, but the results are you have this revenue source to then put back into your roads. And it is becoming more and more common across the state. Like I said, the town of Sheridan, which is 4,000 people, just implemented it because they know that development's coming their way. Westfield is pretty full right now. There's not much room for Westfield to grow. And so Sheridan's that next stop. They've already had a lot of people looking at it, much like it is here in Danville. And so with all of that incoming infrastructure coming in and development, that was a time for them to get it done. So we started that process about a year ago, and they passed it a couple months ago. It doesn't take place until 2021.
So probably an impossible question to answer, but any ballpark on what it costs, and then how long does it take to get our return on the investment?
So the ballpark, what you're going to be looking from your engineering fee. So what A&F does is they walk you through the process because you have to have a specific board set up where an engineer is part of that. And I think a fiscal, I don't know if it's a CPA, but the board has to be made up with a certain criteria. The study has to be a specific study where they're taking your road mileage and the costs of what goes in. So you're looking at $200,000 for your engineering services to walk through this process. There will be additional costs that are going to be associated with it as well, but not to that level. And how quickly you recoup that all depends upon how much development you have coming in once the ordinance is in force. And so there's no good answer to that, but just knowing what's been going on in Danville, I mean.
Mark and Will, get out there and sell.
That's kind of like, we had the same question with the park impact fees too, like, because it costs about $30,000, way different. But for us, it was per permit. Barry's not here, but so we had to kind of like guess that we were going to grow because that year we did it, we only had 3 permits. Okay. But you really got to plan. It's like a little bit of risk in there, but great rewards.
So with some of the stuff we have on the docket now for expanding and planning, are we kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit or a lot bit?
Close.
You're getting close.
Okay.
Just because of the timing wise to losing out on being able to capture a lot of possible revenue, because you can't have it go retroactively. It can only take effect that 6 months after the ordinance is passed.
Okay.
So we spent a lot of time for Sheridan looking to see if we could go retroactive and do some collections, but you can't.
Okay. So that just comes down to making sure we have the money to do it and maybe not throwing money in other places that we don't need to at this point in time. Because I think based on what we've just heard here, it sounds like a kind of a no-brainer on something like this. So
This was actually brought up at a plan commission meeting several months ago. I don't remember how long, was it when Arbor Homes was looking at building? And one of the remonstrators lived in another state, and he brought it up to us, and so we've been trying to do some research ever since then to see the feasibility.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Greg, do you have any comments?
No, I'm all in support of that.
Okay, thank you. D, Public Safety. Town Manager will present the following.
This won't take
Hello.
long. If you recall, back in March, we had a work study downstairs, and we had all kinds of things we brought up.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, that's right. And this was one of the issues. And one of the questions, honestly, Mr. Winters, you were the one that asked it, I couldn't answer, is what was the rate? Because Avon had asked us to participate with the public safety lit. At the time, we really didn't know what that percentage was, so Brownsburg is now looking at it, of course. And the sheet I gave you in your packets is showing that if it was estimated at 0.50%, what the town of Danville would realize, which would be about $812,167. Now, there's a lot of variables in this. One of the things that happens on this, we can't implement this. Only Hendricks County can implement this. And the last time it was discussed, Hendricks County basically said, we're not going to take it on the chin. If the towns want this, you've got to put some skin in the game, put your names on the line and say, we want to do this. The problem now, obviously, is this is a terrible, terrible time to raise this type of tax. I mean, and all of us know, the town managers, we've all spoke, we agree, we think this is an awful time. I'm really just wanting you to see it so that you know what this is about. They talked about maybe a 0.25 and if they decide to approach the county, which might be a little more bearable. There were some issues on whether, how the 911 funds can play into this and maybe relieve some of that percentage to maybe move money elsewhere. Right now, the bulk of the public safety lit in Hendricks County is being used to help pay for the new jail, which we all knew that was going to occur when that happened. So, but again, I really just more than anything wanted to present this sheet to you tonight. You can look it over. You can see what impact it would have for our budget. And like I said, I don't know that any of the town managers and I think that they have spoke to their council that no one's real interested in raising taxes right now with the times that we have. So, but more than anything, like I said, I just wanted you to be aware of what the impact would be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
E, Danville Little League Football Parks Superintendent.
Switching hats.
But not the mask.
Hello? Okay. So with this, had a discussion with Danville Little League, and I've been a part of the water department kind of and finding out their plans for their growth, which is coming soon. I believe they're supposed to bond sometime in the spring, go out to bid, something like that. And so we're working on timelines and what that affects. So the Little League football was pretty freaked out because some of this stuff, if you kind of look in here, pretty much the water department is taking this whole area.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. So that affects the trail, that affects this field, and it affects football, all at the same time. So, and if everything falls right, they could actually be breaking ground in the summer, which is baseball and then football. He said somewhere around 16 months to complete the project. I think 16 to 18. Don't quote me on any of this. This was just all talk. Things can change. Yeah. But my thoughts were, I need to work on this. I need to get the people talking and figure out what we can do to move forward so that we don't leave them hanging and we don't put the public at risk by having things all torn up and they're playing sports around it. So talk to Danville Football, and they are interested in moving up top here, which is kind of how we planned anyways, because we knew all this was coming, but we didn't know it was coming this fast. It's kind of gone a little bit faster than what we had planned. So, which it's a good, bad thing. You know, with every good thing, there's also bad things.
Aiken over there, right?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is Aiken Park. And if you kind of look at, you know, we're pretty much losing this parking lot. We're going to lose the Rotary. We're going to lose this field, and then we're going to lose football as well. And they are going to help kind of alleviate some of those problems by losing some of the things. Me and Matt are in negotiations on what that will be, because we don't know if the funds can be used for the water plant to actually help put some of these things back. I'm working on that one. But so in this too, we're looking at, there's going to be a giant drainage ditch here. There's going to be, the trail's going to move over here, and then it'll run along this front. So the trailhead will move somewhere down here. But in all that talk was, you know, what do we do with football? What do we do with the baseball field we lost? And that's really kind of the question I'm here today to ask is, are you guys okay with me discussing with some of those leagues about possible options? And then really it's funding, because we don't have any money to do anything. They are agreeing to raise funds, but I don't think they can raise funds to the full capacity to do some of these things. So the question is, what do we do next? And we have like just a little scribble sheet of the things we thought that they would need, and the building. We already did drawings for this building over here, and just that building alone is about $100,000 just for the football tower. It would have restrooms and stuff, and it could be a good phase one of that area, which would get them up there, and they could operate on 2 fields, and it would also, and then they were looking at possibly raising funds for all the amenities. So kind of like a good team effort would, you know, if we could help maybe pay for that building, then they would take care of all the amenities. And the amenities are pretty expensive. Field goals like $7,000 for one. So it's, and we're going to look at possibilities of grant funding, and we're also going to look at about possibilities of sponsorships and all kinds of stuff. But I just wanted to kind of get your blessing to move forward in discussing some of those things. And then if you had any thoughts on actual funding, if this is something that maybe we look at for the host. I know this really isn't the best time to, you know, be talking about some of this, but it's a reality. If you're looking up here, you know, football, I don't know where they're going to go once that starts. There's also it's not in here, but there's a 12-inch main that is going to be dug up directly across here to connect all of them. And it also goes under Playscape. So we're looking at some options to where we can go around Playscape possibility there, but there's not really much room to not hit the football field in that one. So I'm pushing really hard. I'm wearing my park hat really hard, the water department, and I've got them to move as west as or north as possible, but they're pretty much at their end. I mean, to fit everything in there and to still have that possible expansion too. So
where is there land for us? Is there enough land, you're saying? So we got buildings to move, and we got land to go to. But is that land good enough for the football and the baseball?
So what we were looking at in some of the visions was we've pushed them far enough over to where we think we can get 2 fields somewhere in here. So if we remove this one and remove this one, now we repurposed the football tower to kind of be a Pee-wee tower. And we're thinking about either Little League or Pee-wee would operate out of this facility, and then football would move up here. And then they would have 2 fields full size, which means they could probably operate games and be done a lot quicker, which is kind of nice too for the neighbors.
Yeah, it sounds good.
So we've got a lot of thought into it. Just like most park things, we don't have any money. And so that's where I kind of want that blessing and your thoughts on the funding. Like, you know, I don't know, they're probably going to be the ones that approach you, but for me, I'm trying to protect you guys, protect the citizens, and protect them at the same time. So bring up the questions, we talk about it, and then we go deeper into what that could be. So,
Okay, thank you, Will.
thank you.
I have a couple.
Go ahead.
I always have a question. With your idea of putting 2 fields right there.
Yeah.
There's obviously going to be equipment around there as they're working through the summer with spectators driving in and out, kids running around. Is that going to of concern?
That's really my biggest scare in this whole thing is the amount of space that it's going to impact and the way that, you know, the average citizen's not going to try to avoid it. So we're really going to have to put some barriers around their area because this is a very, very large area. So, and our trail shoots right into it, you know, and it's also a 3-way trail if you think about it. So there's 3 access points. So that's where I was kind of, you know, pushing them like, hey, maybe it's a bicycle fence purchase, you know, for the buffer areas around it, because if you put orange fence or something like that, they're just going to push it down. They do that to ours already whenever we're doing stuff. So, but we got to help protect the citizens just as much as anybody and the spectators too, because if you're doing football right here and it's pretty much like kind of right on that line, you know, kid goes over, I mean, there's some danger zones in there, you know, and we need to plan for that, the what ifs.
Too early to know at all what the parks might be asking for in terms of dollars?
I think they talked about, don't quote me on any of this, about taking care of a third of that as a possibility.
That
and
being
then
the 100K?
the 150 total. So a third of it would be amenities wise, and then
Gotcha.
100 would be what we were looking at for the building. That's why I kind of broke it into the building, because technically we want to kind of own that building anyways. Right now, they own the building, and it's sometimes problematic.
I know Rotary's good at raising money. They got
Yeah.
$100,000 for that Willard Park. Maybe we could focus them on that. Does the water plant need to go there? Or is that the only place available?
The water plant, believe me, if I could not have it in the park, I would. That's my park superintendent hat. But there is a need for water, so, you know, we got to figure out, and parks were originally put in to protect the wellhead, so for future growth, it's serving its purpose. It just stinks because we already built, you know, on those areas, and this area is kind of pretty because it's nice and open and stuff. But if you think about it, we kind of planned for that with Aiken. You know, now Aiken pretty much takes the prettiness up to Aiken, you know, and the accessibility and the openness kind of goes to Aiken, which is great. You know, we saw in the pandemic the growth of Aiken Park was, wow, it was needed for sure. So.
Yeah, they were herding up in cars and stuff.
Oh man, they were doing
everything.
workouts in the parking lot and stuff. It was good because.
We did look at some properties to the west to try and explore for the water plant so that we could try and keep that park property open. If you recall, Superintendent Ellison was in, it seemed like about every other meeting, asking for money for a well to be drilled, a test well. That was all in that area right there, and they all turned out to be dry.
He drilled right here, he drilled there, and he drilled there and didn't have water, but he drilled right there and did.
Which that's our property as well, yeah. But we did look at those properties. We actually talked with Banning about the possibility of exercising some eminent domain. Again, the majority of that property is in a floodplain, which would have created even greater issues for us to try and put the plant there. And I don't know how many times I asked Banning, "Are you sure this has to go here?"
I know, I kept pushing them. Like, how about up here? Let's, like these properties.
This is the ideal location for us. We already own it.
Well, at one point too, they had talked about having it.
Oh, yes, that
one point, they had talked about having it right where this wellhead is here. But the problem with that is you'd pretty much eat the amphitheater, you'd eat the restroom, and you'd eat the softball all at the same time. So there really isn't a good place to put it. But at least up there, it's kind of tucked up and out of the way. So when you're in the park, you won't feel as much like you're in the water plant. And I've been working with them really hard about, naturescaping that whole side, because I have probably 30 memorial trees around that area. And so those are going to have to be either replanted or replaced too. So, and that's where we really need to find out if this funds can be used to, kind of move some of those things. 'Cause if not, I don't know what I'm going to do.
But one other thing, and you probably have already thought about it, assuming we're able to use the amphitheater next summer, that would play in too, just from a parking standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, the parking, right now, even football parks completely around that whole side. So if it is under construction and we have football, it's going to be a safety nightmare over there as far as parking.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Aiken, we built for the coming going of parents. So I know it looks a little bit like an unfinished strip mall right now, but we do have plans. The problem is we had to do the non-pretty stuff first, and knowing that we're going to have to wait a while to be able to put the other things in that everyone can enjoy. But at least the trails were in there. Everybody can enjoy the trails.
Question, the well you drilled in the park with the larger casing, did you strike water there?
Yes, they did. It was a really good one, too. So I still was kind of leery about putting another well in because they're kind of ugly. But they're important, and he couldn't find water, so it's pretty much a must. So they drilled a well right about here. It should be done. I want to say he's waiting on the Winterland stuff because it's kind of ugly right now. So we had him kind of clean up the area, and he's going to finish the testing and putting in, the fence and everything and make it all Homeland Security, probably somewhere in January. So then it'll be functional. And then they're going to have to drill pretty much, I think they said they were going to try to bore under Playscape, and they have to bore all the way back to the plant with a larger main to upsize it because there's more wells now, and to feed the other plants so that they can, if one's down, they can operate on the other one. And it's really kind of cool and interesting stuff. I just wish it was somewhere else. But beggars can't be choosers.
All right, any more comments? Craig, do you have a comment?
I wish I was able to see some of the things that I know that Will was pointing to, but I have no issue.
Thank you.
Mr. President, one of the
Yes.
things that you may want to consider for this is you do have a food and beverage tax that you enacted. Within that, it has language in it where it's supposed to be used for, to drive tourism, but also for economic development and parks type projects. So if you can figure out a way to possibly do some of this stuff and have it a multi-purpose type thing where it's more than just that field and stuff, you may be able to get some funding from there because you're already collecting that. Now, that's been up and down because you're dealing with COVID.
Yeah.
So it's how much is going out there. But money is coming in there that you don't have earmarked right now for projects. And so if this is a project that's coming in as fast approaching, that may be a funding source. It's going to take some time from the clerk treasurer's office to sit down with Will to see, kind of get a good estimate as to what you're comfortable having in there and what's coming in. But I think I will probably always advise and look for ways to stay away from the host fund, if
agreed.
possible.
Yeah.
And so that's just a possibility that you might be able to work through.
That's a good idea. We had talked about it a little bit, but there might actually be funds in there now. It was trickling along this year, and we really do want to put in some trails with that. So I think we could probably look at it and figure out, if that's what you wanted to do, that is a good resource. That's a good idea.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I should have maybe more news for you going forward as we really try to hammer down that timeline. So are you okay with me talking about it? And then they would be the ones requesting it because I feel like it's their thing.
You can request consensus from the council to move forward, is that correct?
It's not really an action
Yeah, it's not.
from the council, final action, so
I just don't want to make anyone mad. Give me a thumbs up.
Yeah, everybody's got the thumbs up here.
Okay. Jenny, too? Good? Okay. Greg, is your thumb up?
Okay, thumbs up, go for it.
Got to drop the shrimp, Greg.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Jenny,
that's
wanna-
all- That's
pardon.
all I have on this agenda, just so you
All
know.
right, Jenny wanted to add some
Yes.
stuff?
Oh, no, I'm okay.
Okay, not now.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anything else there. Anybody has something else, let me know. Any comments from the staff or council members? Well, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Meeting's adjourned. Look forward to seeing you at 7 o'clock.